It's murder season in China. What I'm watching on my phone right now is something that I cannot show you. But I'll try my best to put at least some of it up on the screen for you. But fair warning, if you're squeamish, or if you're afraid of the truth stripping the rose tint off of those glasses of yours, perhaps give this one a skip. There's something about March 19th this year in China, and it has kicked off China's annual murder season. At about 8 p.m. on March 19th in the Dongcheng district of China's capital, Beijing, a black car intentionally sped into the bike lane, sending people flying, leaving a mess of dead and injured cyclists and pedestrians. When confronted, the driver simply started screaming at the crowd. Police on the scene were telling people to delete any videos they took of the incident off of their mobile phones. This is according to a Beijing-based reporter for Taiwan's central news agency. On the same day, 900 miles away, at the Taizhou Vocational and Technical College, a student went on a vehicular homicidal rampage on campus, mowing down students on their way to class. Again, leaving a trail of dead and injured. Not a pretty picture. It doesn't end there. This is a tough but important topic to cover. Before we get stuck in, let's lighten the mood with a data broker rap. Deep within the corporate offices of a data broker, something is happening behind closed doors. We're here to annoy you, filling up your mailbox. Yeah, that's junk mail. We're calling day and night. Pick up your phone. Some marketing nonsense. You cannot escape us. We're data broken bros. When you browse the internet, when you click on accept a cookie, when you sign up for some or other service in a shop, your data gets sold to data brokers, and data brokers then sell it to other people. But there is a way to get your name and personal information removed off of these lists, and that is Incogni. You see, they do the fancy footwork and all the hard work for you. There are thousands of data brokers out there, and for you to go after each one and legally request for your name to be removed would be incredibly time-consuming and costly. But Incogni does it for you. You give them permission, and then they will, on your behalf, send legal letters to all of these different data brokers to get your personal data removed. If you're tired of junk mail and you want to get rid of all these targeted adverts and take your privacy back, go to incogni.com/Winston and use the code Winston to get 60% off. Protect your privacy today. Go to incogni.com/Winston and use the code Winston to take your personal data off the market. And now, back to the show. Back to the serious stuff. Do you know how often this happens in China? Multiple times a year, people go on rampages killing innocent bystanders and pedestrians. It genuinely upsets me. A few months ago, a despicable bastard intentionally ran over and murdered young school children on their way to school in rural China. Killing little children, for crying out loud. People ram through busy intersections and crosswalks. Bike and pedestrian lanes. How many of these have you heard of? Genuine question. Look, I'm sure you're aware, but me telling you about this, even if I don't show it, is not something that YouTube allows. And I get it. This isn't exactly cheery subject matter, and these scenes are incredibly graphic. Even if I don't show them to you, describing them makes this video ineligible for monetization on YouTube. But you know what? That's okay. I sometimes have to cover the difficult topics that no one else will. In fact, my videos are often demonetized or simply cannot be monetized. Again, that's okay. Because I don't do this for the money. I genuinely want China to change for the better. And the only way things will ever change is if we discuss what's wrong. A squeaky wheel will never be repaired, and a crying child will never be fed unless someone hears it. So let's talk about it. Oh, and I can't stress enough just how grateful I am to those of you who support me on Patreon for allowing me the luxury of taking the financial hit when discussing these difficult topics. So the 19th seems to have been a breaking point. Not only did we see those 2 mass murders, but also a suspicious bus accident where the driver drove into the wall of a tunnel, killing 13 passengers. We also saw a man go crazy and start attacking people randomly with a sickle outside a hospital in Guangzhou. Speaking of hospitals, an intern at Nanning Hospital committed suicide, the second suicide in that hospital in the same week. Also on the 19th in Shanxi province, a suspicious and deadly explosion ripped through a winery. I mean, these things, all of them happened on a single day. And that's not to mention the murder of a 16-year-old that happened the night before. Look, I could go on and on. This has been a very murderous and crazy month in China. But why? Well, it seems that after the 2 sessions finished, and the 2 sessions is this large government meeting that happens once a year in China where the top communists tell the country what's best for them and remind everyone that they have no say whatsoever in what the government does. Anyway, after this event, a large number of intentional killings of innocent pedestrians by cars suddenly escalated across China. If you're in WeChat groups like I am, you would have seen a sharp increase in the sharing of footage of people being run over. Like this video, where a disgruntled woman crashed into these women and a delivery driver outside the gate of Jiaxing Veterans Hospital. Seriously, every day I'm seeing a horrific scene of people being run over. These stories almost never make the news, unless it's too big to cover up, like the Beijing one. The WeChat videos are also very quickly censored and removed, but because there are people out there who genuinely want change in China, who genuinely care about the Chinese people and the victims of these crimes, who save these videos before they get deleted or censored, the truth cannot so easily be buried. So why are there so many cowardly attacks against innocent civilians and children in China? It's a phenomenon known as revenge against society. People in China cannot vent their frustrations. You cannot protest in China. You cannot criticize the government. The government is constantly feeding people BS propaganda about how China is the best, most amazing, powerful, advanced, and safe country in the world, and that the government cares about the people. It's all a false dream. If you're down on your luck in China, you're screwed. You have no legal recourse when you're fired or get scammed out of your life savings by a government-linked real estate scam or bogus investment. When people get disillusioned, they realize that in fact, society and the government doesn't actually give a shit about them. When people realize that in fact they have no recourse or control over their destiny, they feel cheated. They start to look around and resent their fellow citizens, who they see as unfairly doing well. They especially look at the opportunities young children have in comparison to their poor lot that life has served them. They start to seek revenge. This is why kindergarten stabbings became a uniquely Chinese phenomenon, so much so that guards armed with human restraint devices specifically trained to subdue knife-wielding maniacs are now posted outside every single kindergarten in China. The more the economy in China struggles, the more these revenge against society attacks will increase. China is not the safe utopia that the CCP propagandists would have you believe. China faces its own unique public safety challenges, and in fact spend more money on policing and controlling the public in China than they do on their own military. Pretending that these problems don't exist because it's an inconvenience to your propaganda is a disservice to the victims of these brutal and senseless murders happening on a more and more frequent basis in China. I hope you've learned something, and at least now you're armed with the knowledge that China isn't as safe as state media shills and honeymoon phase tourists would have you believe. Take it from me. I lived in China for 14 years. I have Chinese family, Chinese friends. I'm married to a Chinese doctor. I have a half Chinese child. I am heavily invested in seeing that the people of China live an improved life. I want to see positive changes for my friends and family who live in China. I want to see the end of this disgusting situation where these revenge against society attacks happen, where all the compassion and goodness has been forced out of people, where somebody in trouble will be lying on the side of the road, or who's been injured, or is in need of help and is ignored. I want to see these things changed, and this is the reason why I make these videos. Anyway, I hope that you can join me on Friday for my live show where we have a little bit of fun. We look at the news, the ridiculous slopaganda coming out of China and everything in between. Join me over on the China show. And unlike these revenge on society nutbags, stay awesome.